Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to USA Global TV's United Kitchens. I'm Ricki Mckenna. I'm a certified nutritionist and health coach and a chef and the proud perpetuator of the United Kitchens, where occasionally we do have some guests from you'll never know where around the world. And just to give you an idea of what's going on, here's my book that you can purchase on Amazon or from us at USA Global TV. It is Yes You Can, Eat Well and Eat Right. And so it gives you a bunch of recipes, but it's a fun read because there's history and there's history of foods and ideas for kids, bringing your kids in, and just some wonderful, easy recipes, about 30 of those. And so with that, we will get started on today's recipe. And I welcome you to join me. You may have had the recipe already. If you have, I hope you have all your goodies together and we can proceed and make our special orange sesame meatballs. These are really nice light meatballs. Excuse me. Oh, and you too can have a cup like this. It says take whisks. You'll find all that on rickiskitchen.net. That's as Dr. Jacqueline has on the screen eventually. It is Ricki's Kitchen with an I, RICKI'S, kitchen. And it's food for thought, as well as lots of good things about recipes. Now, so today we'll get started with, we're going to combine, to make the meatballs, we're going to combine some ground turkey, and you can use dark meat or the light meat, the white meat, and we've got some ground pork. So we're going to put both of our meats into a bowl together and start mixing those. I like to mix them up first so we get the meats mixed together. And when you purchase them, take them out about 10-15 minutes ahead of time from your refrigerator so that they're soft enough to blend together. And I like using a fork to do the blending because if you use a whisk, it gets caught, all of the stuff gets caught in the middle. So we'll just mix up the meats. We've got the ground turkey and the ground pork. And then we will mix our seasoning right on top of them so that everything goes in together, and we'll mix the meatballs. And actually, I'm going to use some gloves to make the meatballs. So the first thing we're going to add are some scallions and, well, excuse me, I take that back, some coconut aminos. We'll add about, let me see what I did the last time. Sometimes I add more than other times, so I'm going to see what's about a tablespoon. And it's kind of more than you think it is, so there we go. We're going to use some more of this for the sauce as well. And then we have some fish sauce, which traditionally gets harder to open each time I close it. And we'll use just a couple of drops of the fish sauce. Just a little bit to give it some flavor. And we're going to chop up some garlic. We'll do that in a hurry. Now you can use a garlic press or you can mince it by hand. And so I'm a fan of by hand. That way, I I like the fact that when you do it by hand, everything doesn't get even, and you get big chunks and little chunks, and it makes it for great flavors in the meatballs or anything else that you're using. So I'm just going to chop up a little bit here, and then we'll mix that in. And if you want to, you can use a combination of other meats. If you want to make the meatballs with beef, for example, I would get a nicely ground meat, and probably I would use something like either a flank steak, or even if you wanted to get really special, use some sirloin, ground sirloin. And please don't get the 98% fat-free. I like to have a little fat in the meatballs because that's what helps keep them juicy and also gives them some more flavor. So if you're whether you're using the turkey or the beef, get the not the almost clear of fat. You want the fat in there. It's good for you. Okay, and we'll mix in our garlic. Here we go. And mix in our fingers at the same time. There we go. So we've got fish sauce. We've got cocoa amino acids or coconut amino acids and fresh garlic, of course. And then we're going to chop up some scallions and a little cilantro. And let's see what else goes into the meatballs. We did this a few times. And okay, green onion, cilantro, and sesame seeds. Yes, of course. It's an Asian kind of meatball, so we're going to use sesame seeds. Now you can either toast the white kind, or you can use what I'm going to use today. We're going to use the black ones because I like the color contrast on my light meatballs. There we go. I think we've got our garlic mixed up enough, at least for now. Okay. And we're going to... We had a debate the other day about the ginger, about grating it in with or without the peel. I traditionally tend to peel the garlic, or excuse me, the ginger. And the easiest way to peel it, of course, is with the back of a knife. And you can take the skin off without taking half the ginger with you. So I'm just going to go ahead and peel it that way. Although I know many people who actually use it with the skin on. Of course, you wash it first after you bring it home. And I'm just going to grate a great big thumb's worth of the ginger in. It actually calls for, let's see, a teaspoon of fresh grated ginger. This is for you who, if you don't have the recipe and if you're just interested in measurements. Or you can just grate in whatever you like. If you like more ginger, I've always delighted in the flavor of ginger and what it does for food, as well as the fact that it's an anti-inflammatory. And so it's really good for your body as well. So we'll take our ginger and just grate it right in. And move it around a little bit so we can get all over and mix it in thoroughly in just a moment. And make sure when you're grating, you can use a small to medium sized grater. And make sure to go underneath to get it all off. These are going to be really tasty, yummy meatballs. Okay. There, we've got at least a teaspoon in there. We're going to mix that in. Now you can mix the sauce beforehand, or the mixture that goes into the meatballs, but I prefer to do it each thing at a time and make sure that it's all thoroughly mixed in. Okay. And here we go. Our next little goodie that goes in there is the cilantro and green onions. Or goodies, plural. Okay, and I'm going to take 2 of my green onions and start with the green tops and mix in tiny pieces. Okay. Let's see, and it does call for a quarter cup of fresh cilantro and a quarter cup of the scallions. So you can see where the flavor is going to be coming from. And here's my, I think 2 are going to make a quarter cup, but we'll see, just to make sure we'll measure. And as you notice, sometimes I don't always measure because I just know what I want to put in there. And this is what I call intuitive cooking. And so let's just see what we end up with here. I figured the 2 scallions would give me about a quarter of a cup. And I have my little quarter cup measuring cup right here. And let's, oh yeah, we've got at least a quarter cup. And we've got both white and green parts of the scallion. Okay, perfect. We'll just put it right in. And we'll take the rest of it in a few minutes because we're going to put some more of the scallions into the sauce that goes over the meatballs. And so we'll just mix it up and it gets really pretty with the colors. As you can see, I'm mixing a little bit of it at a time so that we get it thoroughly into every meatball that we're going to make. We want it distributed evenly. And if anybody has any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. As we are live, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. And there we go. Whoop, get out of there. Okay, I think we've got that mixed pretty well. It's beginning to look very interesting. And let's see, we'll just toss a few more of those in. Now I've got cilantro. It's freshly washed and dried. And I'm going to take a lot of the stems off, and don't throw them out. Take those stems and use them in your smoothie. So we're going to get mostly leaves in here because cilantro happens to be wonderful for your body as far as being a heavy metal help to your body. It helps remove the heavy metals. So cilantro is one of those things that I found people either love or they really don't. And I'm one of those people who really loves it. So not just particularly because of the fact that it is good for removing heavy metals, but I love the taste. And right now I'm getting an absolutely wonderful waft of the aroma from cutting it. So I'm going to chop this up a little bit finer. And let's see how much we have here, just for fun. We're supposed to have a quarter cup of that, and I think we've got it. So we'll just put that in. And you'll have to excuse me for a second while I just give my hands a rinse and take the other cilantro stems out of my way. Okay. Alrighty. So now we've got scallions, cilantro, garlic, coconut aminos, and a little bit of fish sauce in here. And we're making our meatballs look absolutely wonderful. And what I've done, actually, this is about half of the recipe. Normally it calls for a pound each of the ground pork and the ground turkey, but I'm using half a pound of each. And I'm using the actual measurements for the full pounds, and that's because I want the full flavor of everything that we put in here. And here's my black sesame seeds. And we need approximately 2 teaspoons. So I don't have my teaspoon up, but I'm using the top as my measuring. And actually, I'm going to suffice it with just 1 teaspoon. But that should suffice in the half a pound of each meat rather than the full pound. And mix that in and let you have a look at that. It's looking very interesting. Smells good too. All right. We'll mix the sesame seeds in, and that is the last of the ingredients that goes in here, with the exception of some sea salt and pepper. And as you can see, when I'm mixing it, I'm spreading it out so that when I put anything in the middle, then it all mixes together. It's just an easy way to make sure that you get everything distributed evenly. Here we go. And I've got my teaspoon of salt, actually half a teaspoon. And then I have some fresh pepper. And you can use as much as you like or don't like. That's up to you. We like fresh pepper. So it's an interesting combination of flavors. And the only thing you'll see later where the orange comes in, and I've zested one of the oranges so far. So you can see I've got a naked orange on the table. Ta-da. And if you ever need to use the orange, the juice of an orange, which we will use, it's a lot easier to squeeze the juice out if you've already zested the fruit. For example, the orange, and I have the zest sitting right here. And if I have too much zest for a recipe, then I cover that and make sure it's a sealed, very close seal, and put it in the freezer so that the next time I need some orange zest or lemon, whatever you're using, it's ready. And if you happen to run out of oranges, which occasionally happens, or lemons, it's really good to have it. Okay, I think we've got a good mix here, so we can start making our meatballs. And one of the things that makes rolling meatballs a little bit easier is wetting your hands. Now I'm going to move things over so that I can bring my pan over and put the meatballs directly onto a rack that's in a lipped baking pan, or like a cookie sheet, but it has a lip. And actually, what I'm using today is the bottom of a broiling set. The broiling pan from my oven. I've lined it with aluminum foil, which serves a couple of purposes. One is to make cleanup easier, and it does catch all the drippings from the meatballs, and then we'll put them on the rack so that the aluminum foil also tends to help bring the heat up from the bottom as well as from the top. So I think we'll wash hands one more time, and we'll make our meatballs. And I'm going to make them, they're smaller than golf balls. And what's nice about these is you can serve a lot or a little, and they cook quite quickly. It'll take us about 30 minutes to cook them. So we'll have time to see the finished ones, but since I made some yesterday, you'll be able to see what they look like. And while they're in the oven, we will be making the sauce, which is also a combination of some of the things we've already used, the coconut aminos and the cilantro. And let's see what else goes in. Orange juice, of course, since these are orange sesame, and garlic and onion. And so you can see there's a lot of the similar flavors that are going into the meatballs as well as used for the sauce. So you just want a little space between the meatballs. They'll shrink a little bit, but not a lot. And they're really tasty little morsels. And let's see, what else can I tell you about these? Of course, the citrus combination with the scallions is kind of a traditional Asian combination, of course, with the sesame seeds as well. And we can sprinkle some more sesame seeds on if you like before you put them in the oven. There seem to be plenty of them in there, and that's one of the reasons that I use the black ones rather than toasting the white ones. It does give a little bit different flavor, but we happen to like the flavor, and so that's what I used. And you can choose, if you don't have the coconut aminos, you can use a combination of coconut oil and some rice vinegar. I think will give you a similar flavor if you don't happen to have coconut aminos in your pantry. And just sometimes you can substitute different things and get either this not quite the same flavors in this case or very similar flavors. So that's one hint you can have. Let's see what else. You could use mandarin oranges if you wanted to, the little cuties, or mandarin oranges, or even the tangerine in this particular recipe would give you a very similar kind of flavor. The tangerines are not quite as sweet as the oranges, but they work well. And the zest would work the same way from either the tangerine or the little cuties that we have. And let's see what else. And of course, you could toast your sesame seeds before you did this. And we're almost there. And so far, I've got 15, 16, which is about right because of the full recipe using 2 pounds of the ground turkey and ground pork gives you about 30 little meatballs. So we've got a little bit more than half that. And into the oven they will go as soon as I give my hands a little wash. All right, the way to avoid having to do all that, of course, is to put on some gloves, disposable gloves, before you do that. And if you don't and your hands are greasy, please attempt to pick up a pan like this. It could be very dangerous. Okay, into the oven they go. And our oven is set at 375 Fahrenheit for those of you who are in the process of making this. We just do a little bit of cleanup here. And let's get started while they're cooking. I'm going to put my timer on. And we will make our sauce to go on top of those lovely meatballs. And let's see if I can get some more cilantro. Let's see. Actually, the cilantro doesn't go into the sauce. What we use is the coconut aminos, and we need about 3/4 of a cup. So that's a 1/4 cup. Let me get a regular cup measurement. So you can see where the sauce is coming from, the coconut aminos. And it's very interesting. You could use Bragg's aminos, which are kind of more traditionally, people know about those a little bit more than they do about the coconut ones, but it's a totally different flavor, actually. The aminos are really good for you because they're part protein. And so you're getting a pretty good shot of them in this sauce. We're almost there. All righty. And the reason I'm making the full complement of the sauce is because you want to be able to coat the meatballs in the sauce completely. So we've got our coconut aminos in there. We have a touch of the fish sauce. This time, maybe just a teeny bit more. It calls for dashes of fish sauce, so you use your imagination and figure out how many things are a dash. Okay, and then we have some granulated ginger, or you can use fresh ginger and granulated garlic. And oops, let's get the garlic. Okay, and I'm a fan of garlic, so we're going to use a bunch. It calls for actually only half a teaspoon, so we can keep going. And if you wanted to, you can use your fresh garlic and mince it. I would mince it this time so it's a little more liquid. And then we have some granulated onion. Noisy little onion. Okay. There we go. And we got about half a teaspoon of that. So we've got a nice combination of things in here. And we're also going to add, excuse me. Let's see. We need some orange juice and the grated zest of one orange. As I said, we have a naked orange here that I've already grated. So I'm going to take the zest from this and put it in. And again, if it's too much, and if you want to keep some more, then you just cover that with a tightly covered top and put it in your freezer, and you'll have it. It works beautifully. Okay, we've got our sauce mixing here, and we need, let's see, we need a 1/4 cup of the orange juice. So I'm going to cut my orange. And carefully, over the rest of the bowl, we're going to squeeze and see how much of a 1/4 cup we get. Actually, I'm going to use my juice squeezer. Okay, let's see. And since I've got a lemon squeezer, what I'm going to do is cut the orange in quarters so that it fits in the lemon squeezer. And carefully bring my juice over. Here we go. And of course, I'm not going to throw away these wonderful pieces of orange because they're good to munch on afterwards. And of course, we'll use another orange to make the garnish because it's really pretty for serving, as well as munching later. We're very fond of oranges in this house, and we don't usually have orange juice other than whatever is squeezed from the actual fruit, because the fruit has, when you eat the whole orange, the fruit of course has all the fiber and all the vitamins and minerals that you get from the pith as well. That's the white stuff on the inside. And otherwise you're drinking concentrated sugar. And we're just about at our 1/4 cup. I'm going to add a little bit more. If you noticed, I'm squeezing this carefully because, whoa, otherwise it comes down the sides and we have juice all over the place. Okay. We've got our 1/4 cup of orange juice, and we'll take the rest of this, put it out of the way. All right. Actually, do a little wipe up. It's kind of juicy here. All right. Here we go. Okay. We're going to mix that in together, whisking it all together gently. And then what I will do is put in a couple of pinches of ginger powder. Again, pinch, take your choice. We like ginger, so I put in probably more like a half a teaspoon. which officially I think is a lot more than a pinch, but we like ginger. And now what we do with this is take it over to the range I have a pan that has high sides, and I'm going to pour it in carefully because I'm going to warm it up, but carefully because we don't want it to boil. We just want it to heat up to simmer. And on my range, I'm going to start it out on high and keep a really good eye on it and make sure everything is mixed well. Okay. And I can hear the meatballs sizzling in there. So in the meantime, what I'm going to do is zest some more orange and first I'm going to cut up some more scallions because we'll use the scallions for a garnish. And you can use a lot of different things for a garnish. You can use the scallions, of course, chopped up. And I will do them a little bit differently than I did to put them in the meat. We'll do them on a diagonal so they look really pretty and they're thin sliced. And preferably without getting my fingers in the way. All right, and we'll have these ready for the garnish once the meatballs are done. Keeping an eye on my sauce, depending on how fast your range heats up, please keep an eye on that so that it doesn't start to boil before you grab it. Because you really don't want it to boil, you just want it to simmer and reduce by half. And unfortunately, my camera's not working, so you can't quite see what I'm doing here. But take my word for it, it smells absolutely marvelous, for one thing. And it's beginning to heat up. I'm going to make sure we get every last drop in there. Okay. And again, I have a pan that it's a 6-inch pan, but an 8-inch pan. But the sides are high because I'm putting a liquid in it, so I want something that's not quite flat. Okay, so we've got some of our scallions here. I'm going to take the rest of the scallions and do them on a diagonal like this so they're really pretty for garnish. And take your time doing this because you want them to look right, as well as they'll add to the flavors. So I'm going to get that ready. And I have my lovely little dish waiting here. Okay. And we're going to put in, you don't want them too big. So each piece is anywhere from maybe 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, which is big enough because the meatballs are actually tiny. And so you don't want the garnish to overshadow the meatballs and overdo the flavor as well. Now, if you're really into making use of every part of some fruit or vegetable, you can take the little scallion, you see the roots? If you put these in water, you can suspend them on toothpicks if you like and put them in water for a few days. You'll see they start to sprout. And once they've sprouted, you can actually take them and plant them in the garden or in some form of soil and they will actually grow some more scallions. So just FYI. And I'm going to take a little bit of the fresh ginger. Oh, yum. It is slowly heating. And so I think I'm going to turn it up just a little bit so we can move along a little more. And I'm going to just zest a little bitty piece, a little bit more of the ginger. Which makes it tinier than the pieces that I used in the actual meatballs. And put the fresh ginger into the sauce as well. Here we go. We're starting to bubble now. Just a little tiny piece. It's maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon. Okay, I can see my sauce starting to pull together. And we've got it just to a simmer, so I'm going to turn it down. And especially if you have an electric range, make sure you start turning it down before it actually starts to boil like it's doing now. All right. We do want it to cook slowly and reduce by about half. Here we go. And I've got my range turned down to low so that we're simmering. Yummy. All right. The nice thing about this sauce is that not only can you use it on meatballs, but it would make an absolutely marvelous sauce to spoon over some fish. For example, a whitefish, a cod, or mackerel. And I think it's a little bit too strong to work with salmon, but you might try it if that's your favorite fish. But I know that cod, since it's a very bland kind of fish, it works beautifully as a sauce for the cod. So here's another utilization for your the sauce that you're making, the Asian sauce. And of course the scallions will work beautifully on fish as well. Let's see if we can get this to simmer nicely. And I'm stirring it to keep moving the juices around and all the spices that we put in, the ginger and the onion powder and the garlic. There we go. And we're going to have this beautiful brown sauce to put over our meatballs. Meantime, let me show you how our meatballs look. These are some of the finished ones. And I think you can see that. Oops. And they've had some sauce definitely on them. But what I'm going to do now is rinse my hands again. I like having clean hands. Okay. Especially when I'm cutting something that might be slippery. You don't want to take a chance with anything. And, oh, by the way, just as a hint, something one of my clients told me, that one of the dirtiest parts of your kitchen can be your spice jars. Because very often when you're cooking something, as I do, when you pick up the spice jars, you just put them back in the rack. And sometimes you've got food on your hands. So it's worth taking a trip through your spices and using a cloth with some, just a good disinfectant or something with clove on it. Some sort of cleanser, a liquid cleanser, and just wiping down your spice jars. Yeah, just give them a little bit of a shower, shall we say. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my other orange, which I haven't zested yet, but I will. Actually, let's do that. What did I do with my zester? Hello, zester. Yeah. It seems to have walked off. That's interesting. It's not hiding in there. Well, I was going to zest this orange as well, but it seems that it's taken a hike. That happened this morning to something else around the house. I don't know if anybody's ever had this happen, but things disappear. I don't see it on the floor anywhere. It's not in its normal place. Well, we'll just pull another one out. Okay, and we'll zest this orange. And I'm going to zest it right onto the surface here, but I'm only going to zest half of it. So what I'm going to do with the zest this time, I can use it as part of the garnish, or I can store it for my next use, whatever that will be, whether it's making muffins or another Asian sauce or another Asian dish. We'll see. And let's see. The reason I only want to do half is because I'm going to cut some pretty orange slices to go along the plate and help decorate. So we have a really pretty plate of meatballs when we're done, because we do eat with our eyes. So I've got about half of that done. And we'll take this zest and put it aside. Actually, I'm going to put it into my, I know I didn't put the zester in the sink or I would have found it. I'm going to take my zest and put it right here. By the way, please make sure that you wash your orange skins before you start doing this, and make sure it's easier to zest them once they're thoroughly dry as well. So another little cooking hint. Okay, now I'm going to take my orange and I'm going to have some, we can slice it in a couple of different ways. We can do some nice skinny slices this way and perhaps cut them in half and decorate our plate. And you can see that just a sec. It's pretty that way. And it also gives people a little bit orange juice to drink with the orange if they feel so inclined. And I'm also going to cut just little wedges to use. So you can do your choice of garnishes any way you like. But since we do eat with our eyes, this helps to make everything really pretty and more attractive, especially if you're having company or even if it's just your family. And you know what? Even if it's just yourself, treat yourself like you would company and just do the same things for yourself. And you'll find that life is a lot sweeter that way. It's good to treat yourself well. And my sauce is reducing nicely, I can tell, because it's a little bit lower in the pan. And it's thickening just a tiny bit. It really doesn't become very thick. I might add some of that zest to it, but it is thickening just a tad, which is what we want. But I haven't let it boil. So be very careful not to let it boil. It's like doing something like miso. When you're fixing something else in the Asian categories like miso, where you don't let it boil. Here's your meatballs. Whoop. And we'll put the sauce on these as well as on some of the new ones. These were made yesterday, and they keep beautifully in the refrigerator. So I set them up this morning, and you can see that they do get a little bit browned. Let's see how we're doing. We had about 10 minutes left. Perfect. I'm going to turn it up just a tad. We're on 375. So let me see what that is in Fahrenheit. I don't have that. I mean in centigrade. It's a medium-high oven. We're getting nice and thick. But it's still going to be a juicy kind of sauce to go on it. And I've got my garnishes ready. So I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup. I like to clean up as I go along, which is kind of difficult to do, of course, when you're on screen like this. I find that if you have a chance to do that, please do it. Now what I'm going to do is get a little bit more cilantro and chop that up to use along with the scallions to use as a garnish. So don't go away. I'll be there in a second. Okay, and we'll take our cilantro, and what I'm going to do, just take a little bit, not a lot, just a couple of sprigs, and give it a little wash. Normally I would wash things before I put them in the refrigerator. Now you can swish them around in a bowl of water if you like, and use a little veggie wash on them if you so choose. I'm just going to just give these are really clean. I had washed some of them before. So I'm just going to put them out on a paper towel and kind of give them a little pat, let them dry a little more. And then we'll take the leaves. I'm going to take the leaves off this time. Let's see. And take some of my orange juice off here. I think Dr. Jacqueline's probably laughing, but we need a little bit of tidying up, as our friend Simon would say. And a little tidy up on the knife. Okay, so I'm going to take just the leaves this time, not the stems, and chop them up to use as part of the garnish. And of course, you can always keep some, as I did, to use to make the plate pretty on the outside. Here we go. Yep, we got another piece here. How's my sauce? Oh, my sauce is getting really thick. Great. Actually, what I'm going to do now, it's reduced by about half. So you have to keep an eye on it. I'm going to turn it off and just leave it on the heat for a couple of minutes while we wait for the meatballs to be completed. They're almost done. And so I'm going to finish chopping my cilantro for my garnish. And again, please keep the stems to put into your smoothies. They're really great. Of course, put some of the leaves in as well, since they're really good for you. And all righty. Now, if anybody's interested, I do offer some consultations, and you can reach me through Dr. Jacqueline or at rickiskitchen.net. That's RICKI'S kitchen.net. And I will respond to your emails within probably 48 hours, usually 24. If you will please put the word kitsch into your emails, and I will get back with you with answers to your questions. And I do phone consultations as well. And of course, there's the book. Oops, which side? There. Yes, you can eat well and eat right. And it's a very different cookbook. There are, as I say, about 30 recipes in it. And most of them are very simple. They're very good for you. There's a few in there that you might not call healthful recipes, but they're fun too. And there's history of foods. And it goes from apples to, let's see, what's the last one in there? I'm trying to remember. There's some things that have zucchini, so we go from A to Z. And some other letters in there, including Swiss chard. And there's a whole bunch of things about nuts and nut butters. And by the way, if you're making nut butters, for example, cashews, use your food processor, and they go through about 3 different phases when you put them in there. And I just put them in there. I toast them first, put them in there dry. Once they've been toasted, let them dry thoroughly. Put them in your blender and just let it go. Keep it going, and you'll see them become almost grainy at first. Of course, they're nuts and they're crispy. And then as you watch, it starts to get thicker, and you can tell when they finally reach the point where they're like a nut butter. If they're a little bit dry, take some kind of a bland oil, like either avocado oil or even something like grapeseed oil. Olive would be too much of a flavor to add to the cashews. So you want to use something like avocado oil is really great, or even coconut oil, just a drizzle, and keep your food processor going until you get to the consistency that you want. You don't want to over oil it, so be careful. There's a point where you reach it where it's dry, and then it gets to the right consistency, and then it gets oily. And if you put them in the refrigerator in a glass jar, the oil may rise to the top, so you just have to mix it up a little bit before you use it. But it's absolutely marvelous, and it's a very safe, inexpensive way to know exactly what's in your nut butters. And you can do that with peanuts as well as cashews and almonds. And you can make your very own nut butters, which are really great snacks. Now I'm going to take the cilantro and mix it in here with my scallions. Just mix it up a little bit, and we'll get that going and get it ready, because our meatballs are just about done. Okay. So I've got my garnishes ready, and we'll get out a nice plate. To put our next batch of meatballs in. And you can also use something like Red Pepper Flakes if you want to for a garnish. We'll take a little bit of those once the meatballs get out here. And let's see how my sauce is doing. Ah, lovely. It has thickened just slightly, but what's lovely is all those wonderful spices and herbs have blended. And so we're ready to pour. I'm going to leave it here. Just a little taste test. Very interesting. The coconut aminos really do give it an interesting flavor. Not really coconut, but you can taste just slightly a little bit of difference. What I'm going to do is grab a spoon. And we'll take the sauce and pour some over the meatballs that we have here. Let me get it to where you can see it. There we go. And we'll just take, I've got a tablespoon or so, and you can see the color of the sauce, and that's really all you need. There we go. And there's our finished product. And we'll have the others out in just a moment. How are we doing for time, Dr. Jacqueline? I think we've got another 2 minutes before the other batch of meatballs come out. And I would like to show you, for one thing, I recommend using tongs to get them off, because you can just pick off each little meatball and you'll notice that they just pop right off the rack. If you want to, if you're afraid they're going to stick, there's always, you can spray them with a little bit of either olive oil or avocado oil. I'm going to set my plate up now, so we're ready for our new batch of meatballs. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to use the orange wedges this time, which really will add some nice flavor as well as color. And I'm not going to use the other cilantro. And actually what you can do, if you really want to have some fun, just take some long, thin slices of your green scallions. Just carefully cut those and make them pretty. We can add that as a garnish. There's lots of ways to make things pretty. And it never hurts to make things pretty, especially when you want people to eat them. Let's just take these and make nice thin slices of the scallion tops. These are even smaller than julienne. And we're going to use those to decorate the plate. And of course, if somebody decides they want to eat them, that's perfectly fine. There we go. Okay. Here we go. It's kind of fun when you get to decorate the plate and make sure that everything looks as pretty as you want it. And our meatballs should be ready just shortly. I'm going to cut this little piece of orange a little bit thinner. There you go. And bring our scallions up. They're teeny tiny skinny and they're a little hard to handle sometimes, but there we go. So those are ready. You can see the scallions. Whoops, they're just tiny. Here we go. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is take my meatballs out where you can see what we're doing. And we'll just plate them nicely. Oh yeah, they browned beautifully. And since I don't want to burn my wood, I'm going to put a towel down for the baking pan. Okay, there we go. Turn my oven off. Now you can see that they're pretty well browned. And what I'm going to do is take them and put them right on my plate. You can see how easily they just come right off the rack. And so let's do nice number 7. Here we go. Now if you want, I've also served these on a bed of just wilted spinach. It works beautifully, or you can even use a pasta. Now I just want to show you how easily the rack comes up as well. So you just have the aluminum foil in there with all the grease and drippings, and you just pick it up and toss it, and then you're clean. Whoop, there we go. Okay. That is definitely hot. And now we'll take our sauce. Just mix it around a little. I don't know if you can see that it's thickened, but it has. And we're just going to toss a little bit over the meatballs. And there you have it. Orange sesame meatballs. And I'll now just take my other garnish. We'll take some of the scallions and the cilantro mix, and you can do whatever you like as far as the garnish. I'm going to take a teeny bit of the red peppers flakes, because somebody I know happens to like these things, and just sprinkle a tiny bit on top. There we go. And there you have it. How's that? So those are your orange sesame meatballs, and I think we've done it for today. Thank you so much for being with us on USA Global TV. Again, I'm Ricki Mckenna. I'm the author of Yes You Can, Eat Well and Eat Right, and I'm the chef at the United Kitchens, and I invite you to come be with us again next month. The first Friday of each month, we'll be here from 12 noon Central Time, and I guess it's 1 o'clock Eastern, so you can make your lunch or dinner with us. And in the meantime, everyone enjoy your weekend. Have a healthy and happy weekend, and we'll see you again next month. Blessings. Thank you for being here. Bye now.